Hey there, CPO here, and in this video we're digging even deeper into the install of this Omega Excalibur alarm and remote start system into my 2015 Jeep Wrangler. In this video I'm going to show you how easy it is to connect that T-harness from Omega into the ignition system of the Jeep, and also how to wire up that brake switch wire, which is also really easy. So let's get to it. And do me a favor, make sure you watch all of these install videos before you start your own installation. That way you can make sure you catch up on any changes I make from video to video. It's a process, right? So as I go, I learn things that I share with you. Do yourself a favor and watch everything before you start. So since we've already got our front panel off, we're good to go to start removing this. This is a T20 Torx, and this big one right here in the middle. And then you've got two more, one's right up in here, and then the other one is right here on this side. They're pretty far up in there, so you might need one of these screwdriver type Torx drivers. If you've got one on a ratchet, it probably won't work. And this thing should sort of just pop down just like that. It's just got these little clips that sort of hold it together. All right, so basically what we're dealing with here is the immobilizer, and there's a little plug right here. Now it's a good idea to disconnect the negative battery wire anytime you're in here, just because of the airbag. Even though we're not doing anything that should impact the airbag, always best to be safe rather than sorry. And if you look at the T-harness that we're going to plug into that spot, you can see what we're looking for. We're looking for this little guy here. And it's kind of tucked back in there. There's a little tab. It's just a little awkward to press because it's on the back side. Once you get it, that should come out pretty easily. And then all we're going to do is plug that into there. And then this is going to plug in right where you unplug that. There you go. Our T-harness has been added, and that was pretty easy. Without this extra harness, this process would take much longer. All right, so now I've got a little bit of extra length here in the ignition wires, and I've got this. I'm gonna bundle this together and zip tie it. This will keep things from flopping around, keep everything nice and tidy. I think I'm gonna add one more small zip tie right here to bundle these two. Together. There we go. Now I can punch these down into there. That's how that's gonna go. And believe it or not, we can put this back together now. Once you get it all lined up, you'll hear those clips sort of snap back into place. So all you that are super scared about doing this, in this 2015 Jeep Wrangler, it is a breeze. Now, with that said, you guys that have 2017s and perhaps newer, it's gonna take a little more work. But after I get this last screw in, I'll give you guys some help. All right, guys, so if you have a 2017 Wrangler, or perhaps even newer than that, I'm imagining the 18s will be about the same way. They did make a change to the steering column, and it's gonna require a little more work. You saw how easy it was for me to get to it. It's gonna be pretty easy for you, but not as easy. So what they've done in the newer Jeeps is they've added some sort of a flange that makes popping this off less easy than it was in the 2015s, 2016s. And it has something to do with, I don't know, something the way the steering wheel is basically going over the top of this. So what you need to do is loosen up your steering wheel and pull it out just a little bit. You do not need to remove it. Here's what you do need to do. First of all, go unplug the negative lead on your battery. You don't want to be playing with the airbags with a connected battery. So do that first. Then if you come around here and look on the back, right here on both sides, there's I believe it's a 10mm bolt. You need to loosen up both of those. What that's going to allow you to do is slide out this entire airbag horn cartridge. And as you can see in this picture here, you can just set that up on top of the steering wheel. There's a center bolt that you're going to want to loosen, and maybe a 1/4 inch. You don't need to take it all the way off. Please don't take it off, because then you have to deal with reclocking with the splines and all that stuff. Just loosen it up so that you can pull the steering wheel back a ways and free it from this clamshell. Now, it's probably not going to just pop right out when you would loosen up that bolt. What you need to do is just wrap this thing and jar it loose, and it will pop and it will come out, and you'll be able to slide it off. So just, you know, kind of beat on it like a drum, and that will loosen it up on the spline so it can pull forward. Then once you get it forward, you should be able to remove this clamshell and get to that harness like we did on mine. Then just tighten it back down, put your airbag and horn assembly back on, reapply these bolts, and you're caught up with me. All right, the next thing I want to do is figure out where I want to place the brain in here so that I can know what length of wires I need when I run around and tap into things. There are several places. There's a shelf down here, right here, that might be a good place. You want some place that you can firmly attach the brain to, as well as, you know, get everything plugged in. So there's a couple different options here. What I found is every installer is going to have their own preference on the way they do things. I kind of like the shelf. There's a nice crossbar right here that I think with some zip ties I could get it cinched to that fairly easily. I've got room out each side for the wires, and then I can run a zip tie around this bar. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. Oh, my watch got stuck. And so knowing that basically means that my wire harness is gonna come out of this side, and I'll use that as sort of a guide on where I want to run wires. And I think I'm going to follow some of these harnesses across the top until I get over there. So yeah, that's what I think I'm going to do. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to start with the brake wire. And again, that switch is that white one in there. So what I'm doing is I'm reaching underneath. This is the brake pedal, and I'm going to rotate this counterclockwise and pull it out. And this will allow your entire brake switch assembly to come down so you can get to those wires. All right, so actually I found if I can remove this one little tie down right here, I can bring this whole brake assembly out the front of that cubby. Makes it a lot easier to work with. Including removing this factory tape to get to the right wire and splicing it in. All right, so using a test circuit, I can easily identify which wire I want. This first one here, which is the white and brown wire. So when the brake pedal is pressed, it releases the switch and activates that power. So I know that that's the one I want. This green one is hot all the time. And then these others don't do anything with the brake pedal. That white one though, white and brown one, that's the one we're gonna tap into. Now a pro installer would probably spend a lot of time making sure they had exactly the right lengths from the harness, because we're connecting this brown and red wire to that white and tan wire here. I don't know exactly how much length I want or don't want, so I'm going to default on too long and I'll bundle up what I don't use. But the more accurate you can get your lengths, the better. This is actually one of the few connections I can show you. And keep in mind, this is hot right now because the switch for the brake is extended. So anytime you're playing with this stuff, if you have the battery connected, just remember these things are going to have power to them. So make sure you know what's going on with the other end. All right, so I'm going to thread that through there. Pull it tight. Also, you make sure you know where your harness is, because you don't want to wire yourself into something you can't get out of. So in this case, my harness is here, and the whole thing is going to go back inside when I'm done. All right. Tiny zip tie. And I'll retape this whole bundle. All right, so the way this is going to go back in, I'm just going to slip it back into its place and then rotate it clockwise this time to lock that in place. That's offset. That's why you have to rotate it. So it works out really well. It's a very nice design. Makes for easy replacement. Just like that. I do see where I want to add a zip tie up here. There we go. Brake circuit wired.